Now, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman just a short while ago announced relief measures for, among others, the tourism sector, which is one of the worst hit. Now, once the government resumes issuing visas, the Finance Minister says that the first 5 lakh visas will be issued free of charge. New loan guarantee schemes were announced. Who will benefit? 994 travel and tourism stakeholders, which is essentially travel agencies that are recognized by the Tourism Ministry or the state government, and 10,700 regional or state level licensed tourist guides. Now, is this really enough? Let's get in a reaction from the industry. And what about, restaurants? They've also really suffered in this time. We have Zorawar Kalra, the founder of Massive Restaurants Private Limited, joining us. He's also the member and managing committee of the National Restaurant Association of India. We also have Jyoti Mayal, president of the Travel Agents Association of India, joining us. Thank you very much for being with us on NDTV. Ms. Jyoti, if I can begin by asking you about, the relief package that the Finance Minister has announced for the tourism sector. 994 travel and tourism stakeholders and 10,700 regional or state level licensed tourist guides. Is this enough?
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you for taking this initiative. It's a welcome move by the Finance Minister, I feel. It's a very small light in the dark tunnel. The government at least recognizes that there's an industry which is really affected. They keep talking about it, but finally we've got some recognition. Though I think the 300 crores that they are really allocating to the entire expense, it's not enough. I think the travel, tourism and the aviation industry consists of nearly 10% of the GDP of our country. I think we need a much better and a bigger respite. I don't think this is going to cover at all. Saying that, I'm going to also say the 994 travel and tourism stakeholders, what the Finance Minister talks about, is just a minuscule. I think we have a huge number of travel agents existing in this country. Yes, I agree. The way they are actually, recognized is not the correct format, which we've been telling the Ministry of Tourism to do since quite some time now.
Which brings me to my next question, and this is what I was just going to come to.
Okay.
On what basis have these 994 travel and tourism stakeholders been picked up and 10,700? We know the government clarified that these are stakeholders or individuals who are registered with the Tourism Ministry or with their respective state governments. But what percentage do actually get registered?
Yeah, so it's like I just said, it's a very minuscule one. It's hardly a count because 994, I have 3,000 members in my association. So I think what does 994 talk about with currently very relevant associations who have been talking to Ministry of Tourism since long. So
yes.
The way they register on the platform of Ministry of Tourism, I do not think is the correct platform. And if they had made this mandatory a few years back and then tell everyone to say that this is the only way you are going to get any respite, I think would have been much better. They should actually go into the form of saying how many members does TAI have, how many does other associations have, so the money can be actually filtered down to the correct people, because we know how our members are struggling.
Yes.
So we are very upset about the whole thing. Right?
All right. Well, it's important to get perspective because the government's made these announcements today, but nothing for restaurants. Zorawar Kalra, were you expecting something to come out of it? Because it's heartening to see that travel agents and tour guides who've really faced the brunt of it, in the last year and a half, have been acknowledged at least by the government. Maybe a flash in the pan, like Jyoti Mayal says, but the restaurant industry hasn't even been acknowledged.
Firstly, thanks for having me on the show. We in the restaurant industry are eternal optimists. So we're always hopeful. The moment the FM is expected to come on, we all get excited. We're all, really hopeful and glued to the TV and expecting something every time. And this time again, we have been, I think, left aside. Let me quote what President Biden said just before he opened up the lockdown in the US. He said that if you were to open up the economy where everyone is dealt in, then restaurants need a seat at the table. And with the American Relief Fund, he did just that. Over 20 billion was announced as a rescue plan for the industry, out of which a lot of it was for the employees that actually work in the sector.
Yes.
And 2 billion went directly to restaurants to be able to cope up so that they can keep the lights on and they don't shut down. You see what's happening with the industries. And firstly, I'm very heartened to notice that at least as Ms. Mayal said, at least the sector has begun to get recognized. And through,
Yes.
through, I guess just proximity, we hope the next in line will be there. So like I said, we're again eternally optimistic about it. But yes,
but what does the sector need? You know, let's shift our focus to the constructive conversation. What does the sector need? We've established several times before when we've talked about the sector during the pandemic that it does employ a large number of people. It's a huge generator of jobs. With online deliveries, restaurants opening up in limited capacity, has it improved? Has the situation improved on the ground, even the slightest?
The situation is definitely improving week on week. Let me give you a little bit of data. We're the second largest employer of human capital in India after agriculture. 7.8 million people just directly, several million more through ancillary industries, between 2 and 3% of the country's 2.9 trillion economy. So it's an important sector. It's an industry that deserves to be recognized as an industry. The situation on the ground has improved. Delivery and takeaways are there, but they can never cover up for the losses. Restaurants are not designed for delivery and takeaway. They're designed for dine-in. And with the current restrictions in place in most parts of the country, the viability of most restaurants remains questionable.
Yes.
You know, if you're open till 4 p.m., I mean, you're lost in a business. In some places, you're not allowed liquor. In some places, you're shutting at 10 o'clock, which means you have to empty your restaurant by 9:30, which is not in tune with the dining culture of the nation. So yes, we definitely need immediate fiscal help. I think the entire sector needs it. 30% was the shutdown rates by various agencies announced last lockdown. People are expecting another 30%. If you do the math, that's less than 50% of the total restaurants, which means your favorite restaurant might not even open next time the lockdown fully ends. Right. So I think a fiscal help, monetary policy framework developed for the industry, keeping the trials and tribulations and the high mortality rate of the industry in mind is what's needed for the industry. And we're very hopeful that the government will do that. I'm glad they've come closer to the industry. At least. The travel sector is being helped, but the restaurants have been left out, and that's a little, we feel left out.
Well, I like how you said that by virtue of proximity, you hope that there'll be something for you the next time the finance minister is speaking and you're glued to your television sets. But it's an important set of announcements that's been made, like industry stakeholders say it is at the moment not enough, but one sincerely hopes that more will be done and your voices will be heard. Thank you so much for joining us on NDTV.